Hello, folks. This is Chris, KY4CKP. Well, I don't know about you folks, but I think it's about time we clean up this wiring mess under my hood. So let's check out the Auxbeam AR-820 switch panel and distribution block. That's what's coming up next on El Cara Ham Radio. Well, folks, as we can see, it was past time to do something about the wiring in my hood compartment with the battery. Once you've installed just a couple of accessories, your wiring may start to look kind of like mine did, which is not great. Wires going everywhere. And part of what happens is when we kind of use factory wiring harnesses and off-the-shelf wiring harnesses, they're not custom length, and we use them, and then of course there's in many cases some slack left over, sometimes a lot of slack left over, and then you just sort of wad it up and throw it in the corner. But that's not really a great thing to do, and especially over time when, as we saw here, there was a lot of cable that I could get rid of. This is the first batch of cable that I basically got rid of from radios and lights and different things that I had added to the truck. As you'll see, I ended up with a second batch of cables when I added a few more lights. And so, again, with the factory harnesses being plenty long, that's a good thing. You really don't want to be short, but leaving all that left over is not great either. So I finally took the time here recently to get the Auxbeam AR-820 8-position switch panel and the double-sided power distribution box. It comes with a 60 amp circuit breaker, as we see here, and decided to clean things up and cut the cables and make them a much more appropriate and custom length, hook everything to the battery, and just clean things up and ultimately make things safer and hopefully more efficient on top of that. So there you see a little jumper cable for the fuse box for the power to the panel that goes inside your cabin. So one of the nice things about going with a setup like this, and there's a couple of main options in the marketplace. This is the slightly cheaper version of what's out there. There's at least one or two other options. They're all pretty good from what I've heard, but they're not terribly cheap. And although this is the lesser expensive, one of the lesser expensive options, maybe it's mid-range, upper mid-range overall, you can spend even quite a bit more money than this. But again, eventually I got to the point where I was like, well, maybe it is time to spend a little money and make things look better and clean things up. So I got some ferrules here in a ferrule crimper. I've never really used these before. I've seen them, but they allow you to put a really nice clean finished in on a cable to make connections, especially into certain kinds of kind of fuse boxes and things. And as you'll see with the power distribution block that goes in the engine bay there, with the Auxbeam, it's got those sort of those side ports, and this is going to work really well to make very safe, neat, clean connections for that box. So I purchased the little tool in the ferrules, a little kit, not terribly expensive, and something I'll use occasionally to do this kind of work. So here you can see I've cleaned up all the connections off the battery, all the spider web and everything is gone. And then we just connect the main distribution block from the Auxbeam to your battery. So you'll have one more fairly heavy duty connection. You see the red and the black connections there. And of course the circuit breaker goes in line with the positive side of things. And then you've got a cable that's going to run into the cabin that will feed and get the input from this little switch panel right here, this nice aluminum cased switch panel that goes inside. And there's some stickers, as we'll see later, so you can kind of customize what each one of the buttons does. And so depending on where you plug into the distribution panel there is which button will activate things. So you've got that resettable 60 amp fuse. The system as a whole can handle 60 amps. And there's an example of one of the ferrules crimped on. And then you can put that into the screw terminals. And I think it just works better than just having some raw wire jammed into those screw terminals to go with the ferrule. So it's a little bit of extra work. Again, the kit wasn't terribly expensive. 10 or 15 bucks, I think 20. It wasn't that much. And it's something I'll use over and over again. So here I've got it hooked up. You can see there's power coming in, just doing some check here. Checking one of the positions that I do have plugged in for some of my lights on the front of the truck. And we saw the red light come on to indicate that position. And sure enough, the lights are on. So it's always a good thing when your stuff works after you finish working on it. So there's the beginning of some of the wires again that were coming out and getting shortened and stuff. I didn't need those relays because the switch distribution panel has relays, it has the fuses, it's all built in. So it really helps you clean up your cabling and have a safer, just cleaner, neater install as a whole. And there's a cover that goes on this part of the distribution block as well. So again, just checking some things out, making sure stuff works. Each step of the way, as I would shorten some cables, put on the ferrules, and plug into the distribution block. I would check everything, make sure it was working, make sure the connections I made were good, and that everything came on. And there's the hood lights, the ditch lights. So far so good. Everything worked out, and in the end, everything has worked out. I wasn't expecting this. Again, you can see kind of the ferrules and then cutting the wire to link there at the end of the ferrule. I wasn't expecting it, but I've actually already used 7 of the 8 positions on this thing. Part of the reason is because I do have both of my amateur radios on here, the 2 meter 70 centimeter ICOM ID IC5100A, and then I've also got the HF radio, the Yaesu 891. Those could go straight to the battery. They were going straight to the battery, but I decided to clean everything up and get everything off the battery. So they're going through the Auxbeam, and then also the previous owner of this truck had put in an amplifier for the head unit. That was going to the battery. So you can see the one called stereo there. That's for the head unit. So those are 3 positions of things that could go back straight to the battery if I ever need more space. But for now, I kind of like being able to positively turn everything off when I want to, and don't have to worry about any of those things having a parasitic draw or anything like that. So here we can see I can turn on the radio with the appropriate switch position on the switch panel inside the truck there, and the first position I've got for the HF or the UHF VHF radio because I use it the most, and then the second one is the HF radio. Don't have custom labels for these. Would have been kind of nice. There's sort of a way to do custom labels that I'm not sure they look really that great, so I just stuck with somewhat generic labels, but it'll work out just fine. I can run the radios easily enough. I can also power again some of the lights and the little amplifier for the head unit as well, and I've still got 1 position left. So I also got this little panel here that the Auxbeam is sitting in. I got that off Etsy. It's a custom 3D printed panel for 3rd gen Tacomas to hold the Auxbeam, and it makes a really nice clean install. And then you've still got your factory buttons and things down below that. So it turned out really nice. Everything looks much better. And that's pretty much it. We'll wrap this one up, folks. This is Chris, KY4CKP for Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio 73.